We cannot go to market like it's 1999. We cannot run our companies like it's 1999. Our customers are different and we must respond. And by the way, if you haven't started, you're too late.
Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Today, we've got a really exciting, fun, minor post-surgery guest, Chuck Coxhead. Chuck and I have been talking a lot over the last year or so. Very happy to finally have him on. Chuck's world surrounds showing why manufacturing leaders must abandon that pre-2000 thinking and build companies that stand out and win. And so we're going to dive into bold growth in high stakes manufacturing. We're going to talk about how to turn an industrial company into an anomaly in a crowded, commoditized market. So we're going to have a lot of fun here in this conversation. But before we dive into Chuck, listeners, for all of you out there, wherever you're listening, please take 2 seconds to like and review the podcast. It's not for me. It's not for my ego. It's not for Chuck. It's for other people, because the more you like and review a show on whatever podcast platform you're on, the more people are able to find us. So please like and review the show. If you like the content, there are 3 other shows that you can be checking out. One is called Work But Make It Human, where we dismantle old leadership concepts. We've got the Manufacturing Connector, where we talk about the tools and technology. And we've got Industrial Storytellers, where I get drunk with friends and tell stories that we've seen in the industry. And all 4 of them are fun shows. Please check out any one of them. Today's guest is Chuck Coxhead. Chuck is a guy who brings a lot of clarity to problems haunting the industrial and defense manufacturing space. Typically, he helps companies where growth is stalled because thinking has stalled itself. His work shows leaders how to move beyond incremental improvements and build companies that genuinely stand apart in crowded spaces. He helps manufacturers differentiate, align teams, and rethink their revenue. So without further ado, Chuck Coxhead, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you, sir. And I'm gonna spoil it on this day when we're recording. It's your birthday, so happy birthday week, Jim. I'm flattered you would spend it with me, honestly.
Tip of the cap, my sir. Thank you for mentioning it, and I appreciate it. It's been a fun day. My wife goes above and beyond to make everybody's birthdays feel special, and at 47, I am no exception to that rule that she has. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. May there be many, many, many more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Chuck, I have 2 icebreakers that I kick off every show with. The first one is, if your life were a movie, what genre would it be? Who would play you? And what's the opening scene?
Oh my God. This is fantastic. Wow. What genre would it be? Well, I can tell you I would want it to be sci-fi.
Okay.
But that's probably digging too deep.
Okay.
Honestly, it's probably digging too deep. It's probably, more along the lines of like, Death of a Salesman or something like that, except that, fortunately there's been this revitalization. I started out as an engineer, got into the world and learned a ton. And then, later in life, boom, and so it's like, and that kind of happened. And oh God, who would play me? Nobody really wants to play this. This is not exactly the Ricky Martin. Matthew McConaughey, trust me, you're safe. Bradley Cooper, you're safe. I'm going to go with somebody crazy like Zach Galifianakis, somebody, crazy like that who really likes to get into it. So, and the opening scene, honestly, would be something to the effect of some bewildered young guy who's like kind of wandering and just doesn't know what the hell he is or what he wants to be. And I would love some sort of cinematic effect, almost, as if they did it backwards, or if they, were doing it, present and future. And if only this young guy could see the future that, doesn't need to know what it is, but needs to know that there's a high energy and passion and knowledge for which I'm really, really grateful.
I love it.
It's that whole early on, just kind of walking like, man, really? I don't know what the hell's going on. Am I even going to make it? It would be something like that.
I think that is very relatable, and it tells us a lot about who you are, right? So the reason I asked that question, the genre tells us how you viewed your story so far, right? And this show's all about journeys in the world. Who plays you tells you how you see yourself. And Zach Galifianakis is hilarious, but he also has range, and people don't give him a lot of credit for that range. And so that tells me a lot about who you are and how you see yourself. And that opening scene, we're all currently in media res. It's the middle of our story. And so that opening scene tells us a lot about how you view the opening of your story. And so I love it. I love it all. Gives us a lot of insight. The next question, Chuck, is not as fun, but it is very telling, right? This is a manufacturing culture podcast. We talk about culture all the time. This is your moment to share with us what your definition of culture is.
Wow. Yeah. So it can be fun, but I can understand why sometimes, it may not feel like it's. My definition of culture is really what people feel when they're in the workplace. What is their overall sense of well-being? What is their sense of right and wrong? What is their sense of what they are, where their place is, and what they are able to become or not become? That is really it. It's when you walk in the door, how do you feel? Do you feel supported? Do you feel like you matter? Do you feel like you have say? Do you feel like you can influence the future? Any number of things. Now, that's a two-way street. Okay, so
Absolutely.
employees can walk in the door, they're just putting in their time and they're out the door, right? Blah, blah, blah. But it really is, to me, it's a feeling. And the feeling is also, it is a two-way street. The company has to feel a certain way for the employees and for the team. So
Absolutely.
all the same things apply.
Yep. I dig that, man. Great moment. I haven't decided if I'm going to make the what is culture to you question into a calendar where you tear off days and you get a Chuck Coxhead on January 9th, 2027, what I'm going to do with it. But I've gotten so many great answers to that question about what culture means to different individuals. I appreciate you adding to that. Chuck, let's talk about you. Let's move the conversation into your origin story here. You've told me that your passion was ignited by a business turnaround. So in that, what was broken and what changed the trajectory of your career?
I'm currently a general manager of a company called Coaxis. When I joined the company in 2011, I came in as a director of sales. And frankly, the company was on its way out. It was largely working in the cable TV business, and the cable TV business, as we know, has changed dramatically. A lot of fewer people subscribe to cable, but we do have the internet, so there is that benefit there. But I'm not the kind of person to just sit back and say, okay, that's it. I happen to be blessed by working with a team that really supports each other and loves ideas, and the ownership really appreciated that, and we were able to take that company. They had already started to move away from cable TV. So the product change was happening, but it's still very commoditized. I'm not going to say there's as many companies out there as say machine shops or something like that. But there's a lot of us out there that do these RF cable assemblies, but you could, as many as there are in a strong metropolitan area for machine shops, there are in our industry RF cable assemblies in the whole world, that kind of thing. And when you have a commoditized product, it's about customer experience first and foremost. So that you have to be able to differentiate your customer or your company, or you're not going to be able to do anything. You're just not. 65% of businesses fail. They come out of the chute trying to be just like somebody else, or I'll be better, I'll be faster, or whatever. Faster is crucial. That's customer experience, but you have to be able to differentiate the customer, the company. In my opinion, there's only three ways: customer experience, completely different product or service, or a completely different business model. So I had an idea. The team let me run with it. We chose a different customer experience and a different business model with a commoditized product, and went from 0 miles per hour, essentially, or heading towards 0 miles per hour, to why? Because we identified a real problem in the market, right? And it's buying these these products can be cumbersome and lead times can be horrific. And so this is a real problem in the market. So we said, well, let's capitalize on it. We're literally custom made for this. And we did. And lo and behold, just this idea that we all embraced as a company just changed our fortunes and for the better in a way that we, frankly, I'm not even going to say we really imagined. We didn't.
Okay.
We just thought it was something that was going to help us be existentially sound.
Mm-hmm.
Not, holy crap, where these guys come from.
Got it.
And it was just like, oh my God, it was just a spark. And it began a journey for me of learning where I've, over the past, 15 years, it's like I've gotten multiple degrees that have nothing to do with my engineering degree from Lehigh University. And it's just, and this passion arose, and here I am.
Got it. I love it. So you alluded to earlier, you're an industrial engineer by education, by skill set, by trade. And how did that background in industrial engineering shape the way that you approached sales and marketing?
I'm a systems thinker, plain and simple. I'm a systems thinker. Most folks go out there and they just kind of do what they're told. They go out and they go after volume of whatever, and they rarely try and solve problems from the ground up. They're just in a world of slapping Band-Aids and slapping Band-Aids and slapping Band-Aids. And industrial engineers by their very nature are systems thinkers. It's not enough for me to make this better today or this one time. I have to make it better so that it's repeatable and it's scalable, so that I can continue to build upon that foundation and do more and more and more. And that's really been the core of everything I do. There's a process to everything. And one might think, engineering mindset, that can be a liability. But let me tell you, if you ask every sales guy in the world, what's the key to sales success? Most of them are going to tell you relationships. And then I'm going to say, how do you teach someone to build relationships? And you're going to get some answers like, well, you just do or you don't. It's just something you have. I say bullshit. There's actually a way to do it. Okay. If you understand. Now, not everyone's going to have the same skill set, but there is, if you become a systems thinker, you can actually do things that are otherwise considered artistic, if you will. If you point people toward the North Star or a few stars that make a constellation and they're always driving toward that, then you can do it. And so the systems solutions are everywhere.
Got it.
If you just give it a chance.
I love it. I absolutely love it. You, in our conversations and in your bio you sent me even, you take target at what worked before the millennium, right? That pre-2000s thought processes. So what was going on for those listeners who may not have been alive then or cognizant of what the world was like that was holding back companies 2000?
Well, coming from the go-to-market position, particularly in business to business, they saw the technology coming that would change their world, but they didn't make the connection between their personal life and their business world. Especially our senior experienced people, and this isn't an issue of them understand technology. It's nothing like that. They're jaded by, this has worked for me for decades. I am going to double down and I'm going to stay in my comfort zone because I know it's going to work. All the while, they were thinking about what they need rather than recognizing that there was something going on. There was a revolution going on out there in the world. And that the buyer's journey had changed. They just didn't see it early enough, if at all. And I will tell you, it's 2026 now, early in 2026, but there's a lot of companies out there that still don't see it. And it's really never so evident as when you see a family-owned business, and I've seen this numerous times, and mom and dad are ready to retire, and they bring on children, and the children come in and all of a sudden they want to transform the business. And they do, and they start applying technology and they start doing new things. And it's not just technology, right? It's technology and it's techniques and all these different things. Folks were still out there going to market. I will say selling like it's 1999, with a nod to Prince, who, amazing guitar player. I'll never forget him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love him. But going to market like it's 1999, but also running their business like it's 1999. It's funny on the engineering side, and the operations side and supply chain side, and we all know this now because of the global show.
Yeah.
From 6 years ago.
Oh, you can cuss on my show. Feel
Okay,
free to
the
call it a
global
shit show.
from
Yeah.
of 2020. Just in time is a well understood thing that we industrial engineers study. And someone all of a sudden introduced the phrase "just in case." We were hypnotized by math in just in time prior to the 21st century and even beyond. And lo and behold, it's mathematically pure, but it presents maximum risk to the customer's schedule. Holy crap. If everything doesn't go right, my customer is infuriated, dude.
Absolutely.
That is old school thinking. It's, we're counting beans, right? Carrying costs are too high. Tax implications are too high. Guess what, folks? It's not as high as not getting or losing customers.
Right. Absolutely.
Period. That is 21st century thinking. And so we cannot go to market like it's 1999. We cannot run our companies like it's 1999. Our customers are different and we must respond. And by the way, if you haven't started, you're too late.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question, Chuck, because you take aim at 1999 and the thought process before that, but you also brought up that global shit show that happened in 2020. And to me, that has been just as, if not more, transformative in the way customers and the world of business operates than maybe the effects of 1999. Are you seeing that same change in the way business is done, the way manufacturing operates, the way go-to-market strategies should be built and centered it's over the last 6 years?
It used to be simple. You designed a product, you built a product, you made some catalogs, you sent salespeople out into the world to tell people about the product. It used to be there was only one way to learn about new products. It was salespeople. Okay, that was it. Maybe some ads. Guess what the ads do? They direct you to call a salesperson. Maybe it was a trade show. Guess what they want you to do at a trade show? Go talk to a salesperson, right? You get a clue and then you go actually learn from the salesperson. Now, that's not the case. I don't need to talk to a salesperson until I'm damn ready to buy. Okay, so, that's the one thing. And in terms of the attitude and the culture, people still do it today. They think of it as being a go-to-market process or a selling process for people to look, if you're a CEO, if you're a CRO, if you're even in the manufacturing space and you're in your leadership meetings and your salespeople, you're talking about opportunities. And they think of opportunities as a selling process. And the selling process is lead, okay, the quote, negotiation, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a shit? That's what you need. It's what I call win disease. What I need, WIN. It's a disease.
Yeah.
What matters is the buying process, right? The buying process is I go out and I learn, I explore, I learn, I get a spark on something new. I want to determine whether it's suitable. I then need to sell internally. I need to get supporters. And then when I've done that and I'm convinced that I can get further with that I'm actually going to put my neck out there and actually speak to someone or, IRL and go forward with it and before pricing. Notice that people do all that long before they get pricing.
Oh, yeah.
They need to feel comfortable. You need to establish trust. They need to establish some sort of faith because it's not about solving a problem. It's about making their life better.
Yeah. Do you think that
if I succeed, then I might get promoted?
Absolutely. Do you think that decades of poor sales tactics, poor sales reputations, right? The idea of what a salesperson was hasn't always been favorable, right? I remember when I first got into sales and people assumed I was a car salesman or an insurance salesman, right? When I said, "Oh, I'm in sales," they had a picture already in their mind. Death of a Salesman, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, whatever the correlation you want to draw. And then we got the technology, and now at least 6-7 years ago, the statistic was like 65% of the a buyer's journey is complete by the time they reach out to a salesperson, right?
Yes.
Do you think that lack of trust in what a salesperson is had led to that need for the buyer to go on this journey before they reach out to a salesperson?
Yes. Because, and it's not just the salespeople, it's the culture of the company. It starts at the CEO, it comes to the CRO, the CMO, the CFO, and then the salespeople down the line. Again, it's the wind disease. That's what I need. They get so attached. Like, I got one. I got to sink my claws in and I got to run this thing until it's dead. And that's what I need. But there's a fellow by the name of Josh Braun, and he teaches selling, and he's got a podcast, and I love it. And each podcast is like 2 minutes long. It's great. Consume 100 of them in an hour, whatever that math comes out to be. And the thing that sticks out with me the most with Josh Braun is he's like detached from the outcome. And that is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Detach from the outcome on the opportunity, detach from the outcome on a cold call, detach from the outcome on everything, and attack the market in a differentiated way. And that detaching from the outcome is huge because that lets you literally cure your wind disease. And if the companies can do that, it's like, I love these guys, but I'm going to survive. It's not that I don't need them. It's not that I don't need them. I need someone.
Sure.
But it's a very emotional game. Running a company, especially when you have things like cash flow issues and all the things, or you're a startup, all these things are highly emotionally charged. Oh, it's easy for you to say, well, yeah, I've been through it too. So it's, but if you get detached from the outcome, then it's easy to build rapport. It's easy to build trust, not just as an individual, but as a company.
Sure.
You know,
that makes
our
sense.
company enjoys 100% inbound.
That's it. No,
100% inbound. We're not out trying to dig our claws and, clamp our claws into somebody. When we get something, do we chase it? Yes. If we lose it, do we get all exercised and emotional? No. So yes, they have it's a very well-deserved reputation, Jim. And it all comes from that disease.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, to me, as you were talking, I was reflecting back on my sales career and the way I was incentivized. And then as a sales leader, the way I was incentivized and was charged in incentivizing the people who reported to me made it so that trust wasn't the thing that we focused on. We had that what I need disease, right? And that's never been something I thought about. So I appreciate that. So at Coaxis, you've helped revolutionize, or you have revolutionized how these RF cable assemblies are specified and purchased on the buyer's journey side. So what did you change, and why did that matter so much?
In our world, again, the product it's built to spec. Okay? So there is no standard RF cable assemblies. Now, there's some people that might stock some, but that doesn't mean they're standard. There is no standard. There are standard components or standardized components, standardized cables, standardized connectors, et cetera, et cetera. But there are literally billions and billions and billions of potential combinations that can be made. We literally can make billions of potential combinations or different SKUs, if you will, just from the inventory within our building on any given day. And so that being said, folks treat that business as if it's an engineered product and you start from here and then you move forward, right? And that whole just-in-time thing, keep my inventory low. I couldn't possibly be able to build billions and billions of combinations because that would mean way too much inventory. And so they say, I'm going to build as little inventory as possible. And I'm going to buy once I get an order. And I had a customer, no word of lie, back in the summer, I was out visiting, and he said, I needed 7 different cable assemblies, just like, it was like a total of 50 cable assemblies, 7 different versions, if you will. 16 weeks.
Wow.
I shipped those standard in 3. I can ship them in 2 days using our e-commerce system.
Wow.
Up to 50 pieces combined. So it starts with inventory, and then you create a customer experience that allows to be able to speed that buying process.
Okay.
In a hands-off way.
Yep.
They actually don't need to engage with me. They can go from discovery to order to, getting the product within, anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending on how far away they are and the shipping method they choose.
Wow.
So, but without the business model of more inventory, and without the changed customer experience of this very, very user-friendly, micromanaged user experience e-commerce system, it would never have happened. We'd still be slow and dogging it like everybody else.
So I can see where this would be a massive help for a company like Coaxis. You've got your own products. A lot of our listeners, I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of our listeners on this show are job shops, right? High mix, low volume. How can they take this whole framework, this whole concept of what you're talking about, of changing that buying experience into that job shop setting?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think it starts generically, regardless of the company. It starts with really understanding what is the deficit in whatever the customers need to fix, accomplish, or avoid what they need, right? Get rid of my win disease, right? Make it what they need. And when you find that thing, whatever the hell that thing is, you need to erase the whiteboard. All ideas are a potential idea, and say, how can we change potentially so that we can achieve that thing in a way where preferably no one else does, or certainly no one else within our ideal customer profile or geographic area or whatever the heck that is. We identified lead time. I chose to create a custom e-commerce system, which had not been done before, a configurator, if you will. And, I had this conversation with someone years ago. We were talking about e-commerce, and a friend of mine who is a president of a machine shop. And keep in mind, I was a machinist too. I've done just about every damn thing you can do in manufacturing. And we were talking about it, and he said, I own a machine shop. We can't do e-commerce for a machine shop. And I went out, this was 10 years ago, 15, whatever, easily 10 years ago. I went out and did a search. I found one.
Really?
And now if you go out and you do a search now, you will find a bunch.
Oh, I'm sure there are hundreds now.
Right. Well, I don't know how many, but you can find a bunch. It isn't just one. And so that's something that you could do. Again, 20th century thinking, 21st century thinking. I say innovation isn't thinking outside the box. Innovation is realizing there was never a box to begin with. You got to be able to forget all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just say, yeah, let's just treat everything like it's new. So it's not that you have to go out and do e-commerce. That's not it. You have to go out and find that thing in your industry that everybody grumbles about and that stops them from making their life better. Once you do that, then you have to roll up those sleeves. Now the hard part begins. How are we going to change so that we can address that? That's what Coaxis did.
I love it. So we have to really look at, if I'm hearing you correctly, we have to look at the tools and technology that exist out there. We don't necessarily need to create something from scratch ourselves, right? Is that what I'm hearing you say? I mean, you may have created a configurator and, an e-commerce platform for Coaxis, but if we just understand what the buyer needs, not what we need, likely using technology, we can find a way to deliver on what they need. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Okay.
You're going to be different in one of three ways. Totally different customer product or service, totally different business model, totally different customer experience. The product and service is obvious. It's not about being better. It's about being completely different. Better isn't better. Different is better. And in terms of the customer experience and the business model is not necessarily technology. Technology is a tool that can help you to manage your business model. The customer experience has tools out there that can help you manage your customer experience. Many of them are out there. I will tell you that we've taken the tactic of doing everything ourselves. So we develop a ridiculous amount of software for a 37 person company. A ridiculous amount of software.
That's pretty cool, though.
And far beyond e-commerce.
Really?
Far beyond e-commerce, yeah. Yeah, for people out there in my industry, they would use something like LabVIEW to program test sets, not Coaxis. We're developing our own custom software so that we can speed the process. And it's not just about speeding the process. We speed the process and we provide a different customer experience through, testing and providing test results that other folks don't do. So again, it's not about better, it's about different. It's a different experience. And so, yeah, the technology is out there, but again, it's not just about buying a package. Now, not everybody's going to be in a position to do that. So you have to if you know what your North Star is, start plotting your course and take one step and then the next step, and eventually you'll get there. And if that leads you to do crazy crap like we do, then do crazy crap like we do. If that leads you to do more conventional crap like everybody else, then do more conventional crap like everybody else. I don't care. I just want to see you succeed.
I love it. What happens to frontline workers when a company differentiates instead of competing purely on price or staying the same?
Oh my gosh. Frankly, when we first started talking about this episode, manufacturing culture, it's frontline workers that were in my brain because our culture is different there as well. And I can remember back in 2012-ish, 2012, 2013, when I suggested that we were going to be turning orders and custom orders in 2 days and delivering 50 pieces in 2 days. And it was like, I wouldn't say a hush fell over the shop. I would say where there was a mild tremor. So this guy is an asshole. What is he going to do to us? Because shit only flows downhill. And yes, all that is true. But by being a systems thinker, you put processes in place so that you can raise your odds of success dramatically. Now, I'm not going to go into all of those. There's probably too many for me to cover in one podcast episode. It's not just inventory. It's not just, you have to be able to compress the entire processing cycle into a way that doesn't just amount to beating people with a stick. And so there's a lot gets placed in the frontline workers. Consequently, you have to give something in return. You really do. And that doesn't mean, bending over and, get golden toilet seats and a keg on Fridays like they do in Silicon Valley. I mean, hey, whatever. If that's what you want to do, it's great. I grew up in the photonics boom of the early 2000s and, all that stuff. I saw it. It was real. But the culture matters. How you treat people matters. And in order to do that, we actually, the conventional organization is like this. And we flattened it almost completely. I have we'll call it idealistic, almost utopian vision, which, utopia is impossible to achieve. It's asymptotic. You can move in that direction, but never get there. That where everyone has information equality. Okay. Now, not everybody's going to be able to effectively act with that information with an equal outcome, but that is my goal. Create a system where we can compress everything moving through, give every people information equality, let them go out, teach them, give them extensive training, and continually teach them, and then trust them to go out and do the work. There's no, we got to meet revenue this month, this quarter, this year. None. Zero. There is no, I know one company in our space, nowhere to lie. They have a monitor on the wall with all the employees' names, and they're tracking their rate of builds, and they're literally shaming their employees in public in front of everybody else.
Wow.
One would say it's gamification. Others would say it's shame. I tend to fall in the latter camp. That's a real story. Holy crap. Wow. But you can't do that. You have to have a culture where, it's like 51% employee, 49% customer. It's not the customer's always right. The customer's not always right, but the customer is always the customer. Well, the employee is not always right, but the employee is always the employee. We have to really think of them more on equal plane and care for them. And so that's our philosophy going in. Everyone knows what to do. And so go and do it.
Shit does roll downhill. I mean, you said it. We all see it in an industry where historically, and maybe this is 20th century thinking versus 21st century thinking, but I'm not sure it is, that we have been so siloed. And you said you flattened the organization, and that's awesome. How can other organizations that have sales, marketing, operations in different silos, how can they gain the alignment to be able to achieve something like this?
Therein is one of the biggest issues, that alignment. Alignment, first of all, it's continuous adjustment. The alignment. It's not a one and done. So the people never go away. The conversations never go away. If anything, what I want is more and more and more and more and more conversations, not repetitive, busy work. I want continual conversations for alignment. Hell, we just had a company meeting on Monday. That was exactly that. It was like, yes, There was a time when we used to just throw stuff over the transom. Here's your paperwork. Go, come ask us questions. We are far from that now. I've been a proponent of, no, let's have the conversations. Let's align. Let's get all the input, primarily for the anomalies. There's things that are standard and rote that are easy. We've got that stuff down, but there are things that are anomalies. If you try and treat them like every day, you're done. You're cooked. So it's continual conversations and alignments that you can always be adjusting. But the biggest one is trust. And if you're the type that needs control, you are SOL, dude. You have to learn how to trust people. Now, with great responsibility, what's Uncle Ben say? With great power comes great responsibility. Trust is a great power. So you also have to have accountability. If you're going to trust someone, you have to hold them accountable. And, interestingly enough, almost every employee in our company has a key to the building.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I dig that. I like that a lot because it shows that you do trust them. And then we have
a very flexible schedule. And you come in, you do, I could only work, 30 hours during the week, but I want to make up my 10. They come in on a Saturday. They come in on Saturday and Sunday, whatever the hell they want to do. Or they want to come in late. We got somebody who comes in at 2:00 in the morning. We've got somebody who works like basically 2 4s in a day. Wow. Whatever the heck it is. And they're able to come freely and go freely. Just do the work and make sure that you're aligned and have those conversations. So trust is really hard to come by.
So what is a leader's role in building these systems that are able to enable such bold growth?
Well, in the absence of ideas, the leader has to be able to create them. The way, in my opinion, the way that oftentimes gets exercised is I come up with an idea but it's my idea or else. And I was in my 20s once. I'm an engineer, been there, done that. Okay. Far from a perfect human. But you're constantly seeking ideas. You're constantly giving permission to people to erase the whiteboard. We have an engineer who just wanted to improve his work for himself. And he went out on his own, started playing with ChatGPT and vibe coded up an application that dramatically cut the engineering time for certain types of products from, wait for it, hours to seconds.
Really?
And what did we do? He had the idea. I said, awesome, dude. Go run with it. By the way, if you're able to pull that off, then I think that we could potentially do this, and this in the future and apply what you're doing to create a whole new customer experience that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. And I said, go for it, man. What do I need to support you? Money, you need time. What do you need? So, but if those ideas don't come, then you have to create the ideas, or you have to solicit the ideas. You have to pull them out of people. But again, there's that trust because, nothing ever happens when, Chuck says, what's your idea? He always just goes with his shit. There's that trust again. Sometimes you have to let people execute their ideas, even though you know in your heart of heart that it's going to fail, just so that you gain trust.
Oh, I've left more organizations because I'm one of those people who have hundreds, if not thousands of ideas, and maybe 2% are good, great ideas. The rest are okay, if not garbage, right?
Yeah.
But I've left more organizations because the 2% of good, great ideas aren't listened to, but the okay garbage ideas aren't even entertained. They're not even listened to, right? And I to me, what you just said really hit home, resonated deeply with me, because that is such a issue out there in any industry. It's not just manufacturing, it's any industry.
Well, and there's also the way you couch things. Again, you ask what the leader's role is and what their responsibility is. If someone has an idea, there's 2 answers. Usually only one is given, or in the way it's given, it is inferred that the answer is no. And we shall never speak of it again. Man, I love the answer, not yet. I've got a list. I'm not even going to show on the screen here, right? How long my list is of capturing ideas. And they may not mine. Some are mine and some are from other people. and you prioritize them and you capture those. And I do it in a very systems thinking way. It's very organized so that I can recall it. I got a partner on podcast that I do, and he does it all with index cards. Cool. Whatever your way is, your way is. And so that I don't lose them. And that's my way. And I will use these words. That's my way of saying, not yet. I have other things that are higher priority, or I have cash flow that I've only budgeted for this, or what have you. But if once you come back and you revisit their ideas, no one's more surprised than them.
Exactly.
I guess when he says not yet, he really means it. Yeah.
And then that builds trust for them to come to you in the future with more ideas and potentially better ideas.
And when you use their idea and you credit them for it instead of all of a sudden, making it your idea, which I've heard stories of that. I don't know how much of I've actually seen in my career, but it also builds trust.
Absolutely.
I walked one around the shop one day, and all I did was the whole time I'm praising, my one employee, Dan. Dan came up with this, Dan, and I walked it around the shop, not to make sure that I covered all. Okay, Dan, this is how we get this idea. Go to this person. This is what you need to know from this person. Go to this person. This is what you need from this. Get all the input from all the people. All the while I'm going, Dan came up with this great idea. Please try and break it. If you break it, right, then maybe we can make it what it needs to be. But I praised the hell out of him. And it was authentic.
That's awesome.
But he now believes that I care what he thinks, and then I will execute.
I love it. All right. Pardon me. You mentioned that you have a podcast partner. You co-host the RF Frontiers podcast.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about the show. What's the format? What do you guys cover? Obviously RF, but tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I've done bunches of podcasts over the years. To me, they're about giving first, straight up giving first. And in our industry, our industry is highly, highly, highly technical. Specifications until your eyes, ears, nose, and mouth bleed is the way it feels.
Yep.
There's no differentiation whatsoever. But there's so much more to every industry in the world. Now, there is a podcast in our industry. It's run by our biggest trade rag. You got to pay to be on it. And they come in, they talk about their latest development. And there's so much more to technology. And we see that there's this gap for small business, medium business entrepreneurs out there, because so much of the innovation in the world comes from the small, medium business, the upstarts. And because the bigger companies are in a place where they can't capitalize on it, for whatever reason. And so what we want to do is, yes, there's the technology, but there's also supply chain, there's operations, and there's compliance, and there's human resources and recruiting and all these different things. And so we're bringing people's stories in these areas of expertise to this industry with the hope of teaching people and inspiring them to go out and do more. Because the greatest stories I've ever heard are from these folks that started in a garage.
Wow.
And, they bootstrapped their company. And now 5, 10, 15 years later, they've got something just, incredible going on. No, they're not billionaires, but they've been able to achieve something really incredible. We want to bring that out to the world so that we can teach people.
I love it.
And learn something along the way, because guess what? Maybe I come off that way, but believe me, I don't have all the answers.
You are a very confident gentleman, but nobody knows all the answers, and I appreciate your humility. So, second to last question for you, Chuck. If manufacturers, regardless of vertical, embraced this concept of bold differentiation in those three areas, what do you think that the industry looks like 5 to 10 years from now?
Well, I think there's a risk of everybody differentiating by doing the same thing. If everybody followed my advice, and let's get this straight, I didn't invent this advice. Okay, I learned from the greats, and I'm a parrot. I think you run that risk. So you stop competing on product and you start competing on differentiation. I will tell you that we have imitators.
I'm sure you do.
We definitely have imitators now. We were clearly the first, but we don't rest on our laurels, and I'm still taking what we do to several levels. I'm probably 3 levels ahead. Planning and execution, it all rolled out over time. And I think you start competing at a differentiation. So I think that's a risk. But I talked about being idealistic and utopian before. The realist in me borderline pessimist. Most people won't do it.
Sure. Have you ever read the book?
You'll have some people that will rise.
Yeah.
You'll have some people that will rise, and you'll have some people that will languish.
Have you ever read the book? It's a children's book, so I wouldn't expect you to. It's called The Hueys and the New Sweater.
I've not, but I've been a child, and I've had a child.
And so The Hueys and the New Sweater is all about this group of beings. They're called Hueys. And one day, one of the Hueys puts on a sweater, and that shakes the entire community because they are homogenous. They all look the same, they act the same, they talk the same. And so one person wearing a sweater really throws the entire community into a tizzy. And then everybody starts to wear sweaters. And then that original Huey then says, I'm going to wear a hat. Mm-hmm. So I think that, to your point, differentiation will evolve if differentiation becomes the norm. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think that you also have this situation where if everyone's differentiating, then being the same will be different. So that is in my mind, it's deep. Maybe other people, it's simple because they're smarter than I am. But to me, it's a very deep concept. So how do you differentiate by being the same? Holy shit, I think my head's going to explode just thinking on it. But that's exactly what it is, right? And by the way, I'm more pedestrian than the Hueys in the New Sweater. I'm a star-bellied Sneetch kind of guy. That's more commentary on humanity than it is, but it is about being different.
Yep.
So
star-bellied Sneetch. I loved Dr. Seuss growing up, and my kids loved it as well. Chuck, last question for you. What haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience?
Oh, wow. You know what's crazy? I ask people that question, and I feel like I'm getting caught flat-footed. No, honestly, this was great. I think that I just want to leave people with a thought, frankly. And the thought, it's kind of a repetition, but I'll say particularly people in the go-to-market world, don't let someone else decide paint your picture for you. I left a comment on LinkedIn this week sometime about salespeople. And it was in response to something about basically, what do you do if your company doesn't have marketing materials or marketing stuff for you? I said, well, you create it yourself. You could step back and you can be a victim, and you can blame someone else, or you can become a hybrid seller marketer. And by the way, I think every seller who isn't a hybrid seller marketer in 2026 is a fool. You can find a way to do things differently, even if it means putting in the extra time, because you can't do it on company hours because you got a quota or some crap like that, which don't work, by the way. You have to go out and you have to find a way to do that and be different in those manners. And don't let someone else paint your own picture. And it's, again, if you're like everyone else, as a person, as a salesperson, as a CEO, as a CFO, as a director of operations, you're not differentiated. You are just noise in a crowd. You are just a lemming. Okay? Put on the new sweater, plate up, put on the new sweater and find a way to be different, because guess what? People that are different, every single person that we admire in the entire world, all of our heroes, all of the stars, they're all different.
I love it.
That's why they become our heroes, or someone to whom we look up, or someone we want to emulate. And so don't let someone paint your own picture. Differentiate yourself too.
I love it.
So Chuck, you decide what the question was. That's my answer.
I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to say, Chuck Coxhead, thank you for being a guest today. Thank you for being part of my journey. Ladies and gentlemen, audience, dear audience, I hope you took away from Chuck that when companies, and it doesn't matter what kind of company you are, when you stand out instead of racing to the bottom on price or whatever that sameness is, if you differentiate on one of those three things that Chuck talked about, you're going to create stronger jobs, you're going to create better products, and you're going to have a much more stable company. And because of that, you're going to have a more stable community around you. So I hope you all reach out to Chuck. You can find him on LinkedIn, connect with him. He's a wealth of information. Chuck, thank you again for being part of this today.
Thanks, Jim. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well, bud.
Dream big, everybody.